Well, ladies and gentlemen, we can all hear that recording is in progress. But as always, welcome to the Footy Rambles podcast with your host, Johnny Keith. We'll go with Johnny Keith this week, I think. And my co-host, the 10th in line of favourite grandchildren to his grandma, I think it's fair to say, out of 10, Callum Castelnuovo. How are you doing, sir? You well?
Not too bad. And I'm probably on 10th best because I am the oldest and the most boring now, probably. No more presents.
I think it's fair to say that out of all the older, grandchildren, we were expecting you to probably have the first child. I'm going to put it out there, mate. We were expecting you to have the first baby, but that's a conversation for a totally different podcast. So there we go. Let us move straight into the Sunday and Monday night football. We are going to start with the Monday night football because there was a wonderful derby in inverted commas, but they do hate each other. There is genuine rivalry between the Eagles and the Seagulls, and I do love that. I do love the Eagles versus the Seagulls. I heard it tonight. I was going to use it, but of course, Crystal Palace played host to Brighton, which ended as a wonderful 1-1 draw. It started with a cracking penalty from Zaha, and it really was a wonderful penalty. And then in the 95th minute, the last kick of the game, was it Mope? A little dink over the goalkeeper, and then pandemonium happened. And my goodness, it was, I felt sorry for him, but there was a cameraman on, just kind of sprawled over the floor from where the barricade had been knocked over, and Brighton fans had just been kind of starting to, cascade onto the pitch, it's fair to say. But did you manage to watch it, and what were your thoughts, sir?
I did. It was such an undeserved point in the end, I can't lie. I was expecting so much more from Brighton, especially for the lead up as well, looking at their XG and all of the improvements they've had from last season to this season, the chance conversion and bits like that. There just wasn't any chance conversion tonight from corners and through the air where they're very strong. But yeah, that's going to happen. They're up there for a reason at the moment, and that's going to happen if you're a good team. You will get fortunate parts of the game, and you'll get lucky goals. And it was just ended up being a bit of misconcentration from Crystal Palace in the end. It came from their own goal kick. But Ayew could have finished it off for Crystal Palace as well. He missed a open opportunity that came from the man we're about to speak about, Conor Gallagher. And yeah, I think Crystal Palace looks really good, and the changes they've made under Vieira. It's as if they're like slowly, surely getting there for a team that's so new and has changed over so much in the past year. They've got there really quickly to looking like a good team. And yeah, I don't think Brighton deserved that. I was expecting more from them. But yeah, it was a good game. It was a good battle. And yeah, I did enjoy it, to be fair, a little bit more than I thought I would.
Yeah, I must admit, I really enjoyed the game as well. I thought it was an absolute cracker. Total shots 8 apiece. There was 3 on target for Palace, 4 on target for Brighton, and it really did turn into a nice battle. We haven't mentioned it yet, but the battle down that left wing, or Palace's left wing, between Zaha and Trossard was absolutely superb. Obviously, Trossard was the guy that gave away the penalty. It was definitely a penalty. It was a proper body check on Conor Gallagher, funnily enough. So it was just one of those games where you were expecting a battle. I was hoping for a few more goals, but to be honest with you, it's almost, with how the two teams have been over the past couple of seasons, the few times they've met up and whatever, a 1-1 draw was absolutely inevitable. It was funny because the commentator's curse absolutely struck at the end, because I'm not too sure who the commentator was, so forgive me, but she said, Vieira wants to make it a fortress, and then all of a sudden, from a quite a poor goal kick, it came over, and it was just I think there was about 2 touches in the end, wasn't it? Which led to the goal. So it was a superb. But let's talk a little bit about him. Conor Gallagher, the man, the myth, the legend for Palace at the moment, isn't he? Obviously on loan from Chelsea, and once again, Chelsea providing another stellar loanee. It's fair to say he had another wonderful game. He didn't stop.
Yeah, they've got a plethora of players around. I mean, like not even just in the Premier League. They've got Maatsen on loan to Coventry in the Championship. They've got players all over. They've got Danny Drinkwater at Reading, and they've got. But that's not a talent for me. But they've got.
He's not a talented youngster anymore, is he?
We're not going from Conor Gallagher to Danny Drinkwater. I'm not doing that to old Conor, because he looked immense again tonight, and the consistency from him as well. He got the penalty for the team as well, and he just looks dangerous in all areas of the pitch. He's going to be a real player for Chelsea when he comes back into contention. And the reason I thought of Danny Drinkwater was because I've done a piece on Ross Barkley a few weeks ago and was talking about how he's not even getting into the Chelsea team now, and he's got Billy Gilmour to come back from Norwich and Gallagher to come back from Chelsea. And as soon as they come back, they'll be just fighting with Jorginho and Kante for that and Kovacic for that sitting midfield position. So Chelsea are stacking, and Gallagher looked great tonight. I think if he can't get into the Chelsea team as soon as he gets back, he might look to go elsewhere and set his career going. But he just looks like a great talent, and Crystal Palace is going to be heartbroken when they have to let him go after getting attached to a lone player.
Yeah, it'd be one of those where he disappears to a big team at some point. Either that or Crystal Palace will spend not necessarily big money but good money to keep him on as another one of their big fish in a little pond. It's fair to say. I think that he was just breathtaking. What an engine! What an engine! He would be an absolute perfect replacement for someone like Kante. He naturally needs to develop his game, but within that holding midfield role where Kante is a bit of injury prone at the moment, and that is just the only thing that lets him down. But otherwise, Kante, and I mean it, he's probably one of the best holding midfield players in the world. It's just the injuries that have let him down over the past few seasons. And obviously they've got Jorginho, like you've said, they've got Kovacic as well. But again, what a compliment that those two youngsters will be. You know, the issue is, and it'll be like this for at least the next couple of seasons, they'll play in the Carabao Cup and that's it, with Billy Gilmour and obviously Conor Gallagher I'm referring to. But yeah, I totally agree. At some point, he's going to break Palace hearts when he leaves. And and it will be a crying shame. I just hope that he just doesn't get forgotten about like so many of the Chelsea youngsters do. In fact, I was thinking about Ruben Loftus-Cheek the other day, and then he actually played at the weekend, which I was shocked about. I thought it was at Fulham again, to tell you the truth, or just like out injured or something like that. But it's, like so many players, they just get forgotten about. Ruben Loftus-Cheek was at the World Cup a couple of years ago. It's just crazy, isn't it? Anyway, speaking of loan players, we have briefly rehearsed this, but we don't actually know each other's kind of, I'd say list, but your favourite loan players. So there's been some big names in the past. So can you give me a couple of loan signings from, big teams to smaller teams or whatever it might be that have really stood out to you?
Yeah, I feel like there's some good players out there that have been loaned out in their heyday, and they really will have broken teams' hearts when they had to leave. When you get attached to those loan players, I had it with James Garner from Man United last season. Luckily, he's back. But yeah, Daniel Sturridge had his time at Bolton. He had a great little loan out there. Robbie Keane into Milan to Leeds, and Spurs to Celtic at one point. I think he scored 12 goals in 16 for Celtic in the Scottish League. One that was two that was stand out for me were Lukaku going to West Brom and Everton. And obviously he earned some big moves.
Statistics, wasn't it? Frightening statistics when he went there.
Yeah, he was scoring I think he was scoring up to 18 goals or something like that in just a season when he was a youngster. Again, Chelsea sending out the youth prospects. Sorry. But also one that really, really I remember stands out a little bit to me. I was quite young. But Arteta to Everton from Sociedad, that was the season that Everton came fourth. He came in January on loan for half a season, and they were fighting towards that top four. And he came, and they needed like an astute signing. I remember Arteta really settling that midfield down, and they did finish in the top four. Loic Remy from QPR to Newcastle. He scored. Strange player. He was around.
He was all over at one point, wasn't he?
He was a hooker in the top flight. He was getting handed around. I think he went to Chelsea after his loan from QPR.
I think he was bought by Chelsea for a little while. But anyway,
strange. QPR had that weird team that season where I think they had Fabio and Raphael and Adel Taarabt and bits like that. But yeah, and then Kevin Campbell to Everton.
I think Lloyd Crummy actually got into the French national squad due to his due to his Chelsea days. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah, he did. And honourable mentions to Aaron Ramsey from Arsenal to Forest and John Terry from Chelsea to Forest as well.
Yeah, some cracking choices there. So I've got a couple to throw at you. Ryan Bertrand, Chelsea to Southampton. One of those that you just, goes so under the radar because he just seems like he has been embedded, ingrained, and part of the furniture now. It feels like he's been at Southampton since he was a youth player, to tell you the truth. But obviously he's done wonders there. You see how something, they've had a couple of big defeats over the course of 12 months or so. But they're a decent setup. They produce every single year some great new talent that always gets sold for good money. It's not a bad model at all, but Ryan Bertrand is at the centre of that for a lot of it, and a real nice throwback for a lot of the older listeners, because there will be a few of them. Jurgen Klinsmann, Sampdoria to Tottenham, and it all just kind of went uphill from there. Because his Tottenham days that were some cracking glory days, weren't they? It's fair to say that Klinsmann really was a special talent back in his day. Absolutely so. But now, there was a lot of football that obviously went on over the weekend as well. Some very special games and some great honourable mentions as well. So I want to start off with Southampton at Wolves. I believe it was Southampton at Wolves, wasn't it?
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was Wolves at Southampton.
That's what I meant. What did I say? Southampton at Wolves. I definitely meant it the other way around. Anyway, that's why I'm the host and not the most journalist on it. Yeah, then we'll go with that. Anyway, Raul Jimenez back amongst the score sheet. It was a good finish, actually, to be fair. It was a really good goal. I think it's fair to say that, a lot of people will have been looking forward to that first goal, other than the Southampton fans and players on the day. But yeah, it was good to see him back amongst it, because it was a horrendous injury. And I think it's fair to say a lot of people feared the worst at one point.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see it, other than the fact that Ben's got him in his fantasy team. But I was really happy to see him score that. I saw him getting frustrated the other week when he couldn't score, and he threw his head protector off, and I thought, well, we're not going to get the real Jimenez back, and he was getting upset with himself, and the mental struggle he'll have gone through that whole time as well. You could see it coming out the other week when he couldn't get his goal, and then what a goal as well. I think it was probably goal of the weekend for me. The way it came from the goalkeeper, and the way he used his strength.
Great assist.
Yeah. Oh, and the amount of players he sent for a hot dog as well before he put it into the back of the net was it was a great goal. And I was really happy to see it from him. And I do a last man standing at work, which is where you have to pick a team each week in the Premier League. You can't pick them again. And a lad put Southampton. So the other lad won on Everton, and he won 290 quid. So, and it was his birthday, so not too bad for some people, Yeah, with all the money that's to be earned through football. But yeah, it was good to see. The game wasn't ever so exciting, but it was good to see, and it was a nice little teaser on the way to the North London derby. It was.
Oh my goodness, and what a North London derby it was. Well, I'll say that it was a good first half performance from Arsenal. But let's all joking aside, Arsenal were superb. They were absolutely superb. The youngsters ran the show, and they made Spurs look like simpletons for a lot of the time. They were just. It was like watching Arsenal of old, to be fair, at times, because, Emile Smith-Rowe was superb through the middle. Odegaard they were both linking up very nicely. But I must say, Odegaard and Saka were really good. Their link-up play was superb. And obviously the goals just came, from just sexual play, to tell you the truth. Like even Aubameyang, it's embarrassing. And Aubameyang, who's been short on confidence and low on goals over recent, at the start of this calendar year, start of this season, he's slipping in quite a cheeky goal towards the back post. It was just a brilliant performance. I thought the second half was a bit of a bore fest, but that first half, they just turned the screw and kept on turning it. And for 30 minutes, they weren't world class, but they weren't far off it. They weren't, like I say, it's a slip from grace that they've had, but it was like they were back to the Arsenal of old.
Yeah, I want to take that and twist it a little bit. Nothing to take away from Arsenal. Nothing to take away from Smith Rowe and Saka, who were really, really good and looked great and always really do, to be fair. But I think Spurs were just so bad that they made Arsenal look terrific. And I think that, some of it was just absolutely shocking. Some of the movement from the players. They'd given up. I feel like Harry Kane, what am I trying to say? I don't blame him for...
I know exactly what you're going to say about Harry Kane. Well, I feel like I do anyway. Genuinely not rehearsed or whatever else. He looked abject the other day.
Yeah, he looked like he'd given up, and I half don't blame him. But then what I'm saying is, with the amount, it looked like he just didn't care anymore.
Yeah.
The fact that he lost the ball, he tripped over the ball, whatever, and then the ball went down the other end, and Arsenal went on the attack. This is Saka's goal, and Kane went from that position where he lost the ball, and it was so unfortunate because he tracked all the way back to Saka and put a slide challenge in and got the ball, and it just unfortunately ricocheted off him back onto Saka. It was a great challenge, ricocheted back off him, but he tracked all the way back, and I watched Dele Alli and Højbjerg from just where Kane was when he lost the ball, and they didn't even make it to the halfway line by the time that Arsenal had scored. So if Harry Kane doesn't care, what is Dele Alli doing? Other players around, it just looked abject, like you said, abject. And Don Bailey doesn't want to play for Spurs. You could see that most of the time. It just looks like we were talking about the contrasting fortunes on our first ever podcast and how bad Arsenal looked and how Spurs were just doing it. But it's just gone back again to normality really for Spurs, and I think they just look a shadow, and I don't really see what's going to happen to them now, because if the squad isn't going to click, then what have you got really from the players? Like they were just poor. I think Arsenal were good, but I think even in the second half, though, Spurs were let back into it. Kane could have scored a few in the second half. Son did score, and Arsenal just kind of let the tactics go. We weren't making quick substitutions. Arteta just kind of let it flow by. And if they were playing against a Chelsea or a City and played like that in the second half, they'd have probably got punished from 3-0 up, just like when they did against Newcastle. Arsenal were great in the first half, and Spurs were just pretty dreadful throughout the whole game.
Do you know what? In a way, I can't disagree with you. But I mean, for me, Arsenal just looked the real deal. The passing was slick, the movement was slick, and the goals were slick. Harry Kane should have been sold in the summer because he looks so bored, disinterested, doesn't want to be there. If he doesn't go at Christmas, I think they've missed a real trick with getting rid of him and then using that money, because they could have had 100.
What are they gonna get for him? What are they gonna get for him now? That is poor business from Daniel Levy. Absolutely, because he's so stubborn. It's the most poor piece of business I've ever seen, and he prides himself on being a businessman. And I hear Harry Redknapp talk about, you're not going to get that from Daniel Levy and all that kind of stuff. Like, what terrible business is that? Thank you. I've been practicing it as well. And I feel like if I put a bit of an edge on it, I can sound just like Redknapp himself. But I'm just too angry about this situation, because if he'd have just sold him like he said he would before the Euros, they'd have got 100 million. They'd have got a couple of City players. They'd have been able to remodel the team, have a manager that wants to remodel the team. And now they've just got players that don't care. Kane's not good. Well, how much is he going to go for now? They're probably going to lose half the money they could have got for him, because I don't see him scoring too many goals in the league by Christmas. If it lasts for another season and he just carries on in this, it's terrible business. They should have just let him go. They should have just, I don't understand it.
Well, we have definitely found a subject to talk about at some point, because that is really, I mean, to say that a carrot was dangled in front of you when we mentioned about the North London derby, do you feel like, I feel like a therapist right now, to tell you the truth. Do you feel like you got it off your chest?
No.
No, okay. Well, we'll save it for another podcast. Let's move on, because we've obviously got some Champions League football tomorrow and on Wednesday. So to say that there are some exciting games on tomorrow night is an understatement. At 8 o'clock, obviously, all the games are, I think. I know there's a couple that are 5:45, but they're not the England games anyway. But we've got FC Porto versus Liverpool, which will be just a superb game. Liverpool always bring it against Porto. There have been some wonderful, wonderful results and wonderful games, to be fair. And I just do not see that one being any different. That will be a great game. And then obviously the one that loads of people are looking forward to, PSG versus Man City. Messi up against his old mentor, if you like, in Guardiola. It will be. We just like to hope it's a great game, because at the moment, you've got a team of superstars. Let's just repeat that. They are superstars versus a team, okay, in Man City. The individuals of Paris Saint-Germain versus the team that is Manchester City. What an exciting prospect that is.
Oh my God, yeah, I'm proper excited for this. I'm going to watch it. I'm going to be looking forward to it all day at work. And I think Man City will win. And it's exactly the same reason that you just said. They're superstars at PSG, but they're not a team. Man City are a team. And I think, quote me on the next podcast, but I think City might teach him a lesson, whether it's a high scoring game, 4-3, something like that, or 5-3, or it's just a straight up 2-0. I think City could do it. And Liverpool, Porto, yeah, it's going to be good, but it's just going to be 2-0 Liverpool as well. That's going to be I think it'll be pretty simple for them. But yeah, there were some also other exciting games, Dortmund and Sporting. It'll be nice to see Haaland and Bellingham doing
I was going to
thing.
move on to that, yeah, because I must say, Jude Bellingham at the moment, I've spoken about him in previous podcasts. He just excites me. It really gets. He's just a wonderful talent to watch, and I love watching Erling Haaland just because of what a striker he is. You know, he is. If City don't do anything with Harry Kane, they will absolutely go in for Haaland. And why would you not? Can you imagine the goals that he could rack up? He's only what? Oh, he's early. If he's 20, then he's something like that anyway. But
21.
What a player. But then obviously on Wednesday, we've got Juventus versus Chelsea. You know, Lukaku going back to the country that he's just made a wonderful name for himself against a team that he had a wonderful rivalry against. And then Man United versus Villarreal, two old foes from a previous competition. Juicy covers that, I think, is a nice word, doesn't it?
Very much, yeah. I think that's going to be a difficult game for United, and I think we'll be doing another Ollie special by the end of the
week. Love it, absolutely love it. Funnily enough, I'm just having a look at a couple of the other games, and I've been following Bayern Munich as well, because I do genuinely take a bit of interest in the German league when it comes to Dortmund. Munich have obviously got Dynamo Kiev. I think that's going to be a bit of a whitewash, to be honest with you. I can see Bayern absolutely stomping Dynamo Kiev. And also Benfica versus Barcelona, where I believe Benfica could cause a genuine upset. Barcelona have had a good result recently, 3-0 in the league, but they just look a bit all over the place at times, it's fair to say.
Yeah, I think it'll be like beat someone in the league 3-0 and then lose to Benfica kind of thing. It wouldn't be surprising at all, and it's at Benfica, so it's going to be a bit of a struggle. I think we've got some good vintage Champions League football to cover this week, and Milan Atletico and bits like that. I'm looking forward to doing a podcast covering most of it, to be fair.
Absolutely. I'll do a quick shout out as well in the Europa League. We've got Leicester are going to Warsaw, which will be a half decent game for them. It'll be a tough game for them because it's a very different part of the world to where they're used to playing. Sparta Prague are playing Rangers at Sparta Prague. So again, tough game for Rangers. They really need to get a result out of that if they're to stay in. Celtic up against Bayer Leverkusen. Again, tough game. They really need to keep that Europa dream going on. And last but not least, for the English team, or for the British team, I should say, West Ham against SK Rapid Vienna, which will be a tough game for West Ham. They need to get another result. They just need to pull a result out of the bag really in Europe, which would really help them in obviously getting out of those group stages. So some genuinely exciting games to look forward to. I'm just trying to see whether or not there is any games in the Europa Conference. Of course there is, yeah. So Spurs will be playing, come on, fill the time for me. No, it's all right, we found it. Spurs will be playing NS Mura. Yep, me too. Never heard of it.
That'll be still be a tough game for them.
Harry Kane to score? Well, you'd like to think so, but again, let's say as form tells you, he's not been great this season, and I think it's for obvious reasons. Again, I'm not going to dangle that carrot. I'm going to wheel it in. We'll use it for another time. That is all we've got time for today, Callum. Oh no, sorry, go on. You've waggled the finger. What have I forgotten?
Team of the week. Team of the week.
Of course. I'm so sorry. So, at the when we did the last podcast, which was on Saturday night, of course, Callum did go through his team of the week. God, I can only apologise, Callum. You have made 3 changes to your team of the week. So I'll start off with the goalkeeper. You changed it from
Illan Melia
to
Emi Martinez,
and I think that's a fairly obvious reason for that. Do tell.
I think, I was saying it the other day in the podcast, I was probably going to do it, and I've watched it back, and I just think genuine, like a method that he puts into stopping those penalties, and he doesn't even have to save the penalty for his antics to get in. The way he got into Bruno Fernandes's head for that penalty was just class. Talking to Ronaldo, I actually researched a bit of goalkeeping sort of antics for penalties, and they have all certain ones that have statistics to show that there's like certain amount of percent. I think there's 10% more saves when goalkeepers do some sort of dance and stuff like that. There's all sorts of things to go on.
Form of shithousery, as you put it the other day.
Yeah, 10% of saves come from shithousery, goalkeeping shithousery. So he's took Illan Melia out there. I just thought losing 2-1, even though he pulled off some good saves, I thought Martinez definitely deserves it.
Yeah, that's a fair point. The defence has stayed absolutely the same. We've got Kyle Walker, officially the fastest man in the world. Horse from Aston Villa, who scored the goal, kept a clean sheet, fantastic display. Laporte and Cancelo, so 3 players from Man City. So, and again, you can't fault it. Let's go straight into midfield. Bernardo Silva, the engine of Manchester City, it's fair to say. Doucouré from Everton, again, had a great game. And Emile Smith-Rowe, which is the obvious change in there.
Yeah, it broke my heart having to take Declan Rice out. I kind of toyed with taking Kyle Walker out and going for like a 3-4-3. But Declan Rice was awesome, and he got the assist for Antonio as well. But Smith-Rowe, there was absolutely no way he couldn't fit a slot in there yesterday after his lovely goal and assist as well.
I was going to say, he's assisted as well, which is just a super performance.
Yeah, and he'll only get better as well.
Couldn't agree more. Antonio, Vardy and Saka make up the forward 3. So obviously Saka's been added in there. I can't remember who the other forward player was. Can you remember who you've replaced him?
Of course. It was Ivan Toney, who did have a great game against Liverpool.
Toney. That's it.
I know.
Beast.
Another heartbreaker.
Must say he's an absolute beast. But then Saka, great goal, great run, great performance in a North London derby. A real credit to the talent that Arteta has kind of gone forward with. To be fair, isn't it?
Yeah. Them 2 boys were definitely they had to be in the team of the week. The way they performed yesterday, they just looked they looked really up for it, and it was I think to be in a North London derby and playing that way, they just put on a great show for their team. So I think that's a solid team of the week.
I can't disagree with that. I think if they were to play, I think most players would, or most teams would really struggle against that, to be fair. You look at that back line and just go, wow. So, Horse, I can't remember how they said it was pronounced on the radio that I was listening earlier on. I think it was Horse. But he was, he's the only player that I look at in that team and go, but I've never heard of him. That's the reason why. I'd never heard of him until he scored that cheeky header. But anyway, now we can finish the podcast. Callum, as always, thank you for some great inputs. It's been a pleasure, not a chore. We will be doing a podcast later on this week on Thursday evening to obviously do a cracking little recap on all of the European teams that have played. We will be keeping you up to date as much as we can do. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, my dears, have a good evening. Enjoy the rest of your week. Take care.